Greetings, mortals. It's Shadow King Nazru, back to give my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. I just watched the movie about like 2 or 3 minutes ago, and that was epic. Might as well get into the plot, shall we? So the movie starts off with Kong relaxing, and he's starting to feel agitated and feel closed off. And it turns out that he's not on Skull Island, but on a contained Monarch outpost, and he pretty much just breaches the dome that's containing him because he's about 340 feet tall, and he's getting too big for this place. He wants to head back home. And meanwhile, in Pensacola, Florida, there's this let's say conspiracy theorist guy, the black guy you've seen in the trailers. He's basically talking smack about Apex, saying that they're up to something shady. Typical stuff. It turns out that his conspiracy theories are right, and it leads to Godzilla attacking the Florida Apex base. And a lot of people can't figure out why Godzilla's attacking, though we'll get into why he's actually attacking later. I mean, the guy sort of starts to get a clue, but we'll get that later. And the plan is that Apex is going to have a countermeasure for dealing with Godzilla, but they need a certain power source to power up their machine because they can't do enough that would be effective in the fight against Godzilla. So what they think is that they should go to the Hollow Earth for a source of energy, because a lot of creatures come from the Hollow Earth, and they specifically the Godzilla species comes in, which means that something really powerful must have created them. And they hire the Alexander Skarsgård's character who's written books about the Hollow Earth and was also a former operative of Monarch, to lead them to the Hollow Earth, collect the power source so they can deal with Godzilla. Now but Alexander Skarsgård says that they tried to travel to the Hollow Earth at first, but the inverted gravity kind of made it impossible for them to do so. And the Titans can do it because they're the Titans, but humans not so much. But the head of Apex, I've already forgotten his name. Says that they created these new transporting vehicles called the Hollow Earth Aerial Vehicles, or the HE for short. And it's basically like your typical sci-fi anti-gravity vehicles that will be fit to travel through the Hollow Earth. So all they need is for Kong to lead them to the Hollow Earth, and they could potentially find that power source. And they tried to do that at first, but Godzilla catches them in the middle of the ship, and that's when we get the fight with the water. Now, before I go into that, I just want to mention some of the characters I like. I like Alexander Skarsgård's character. Yeah, he seems like a nice enough guy, and he's really able to relate to the other people that he's working with. He has the best intentions, just for trying to protect the people, and he also wants to explore the Hollow Earth. And it's especially since a lot of people thought that the Hollow Earth wasn't really a thing. Then we also got the little girl Gia, and the woman, I suppose, is acting like a older sister or a stepmom for her, because apparently sometime between Kong Skull Island and this movie, there was a huge storm on Skull Island which destroyed the Iwi people except for her. So she's the last of her kind, and Kong's kind of been looking out for her. So yeah, I can kind of see that it kind of gets him something to relate to because he's the last of his kind. Uh, and then they also got the Apex leader's daughter, who provided the heat vehicles and was supposed to collect the power source. But now we got that out of the way. Let's get back to the fight. So Godzilla is approaching the reaching all the ships, the Navy battleships, and he's basically there because he senses that Kong, who is a fellow Alpha Titan, is he poses a threat to his reign, so he's going to try to deal with Kong, and there's also the fact that Godzilla and Kong's race apparently had an ancient rivalry, which was kind of hinted at in King of the Monsters. So they do the fight. Godzilla tips over the boat, and Kong starts to struggle in the water naturally because apes don't do too well in water. So they had to release Kong from the chains. And you're wondering how he got into chains. It's because they sedated him through the neck just to pacify him. And Kong manages to escape Godzilla's grasp by headbutting Godzilla and then kick him away just so he can get back on the surface of the aircraft carrier. And he prepares to fight Godzilla on the top of it, which we got the iconic scene of both of them fighting on it, even though realistically they're both of their weight would not be supported by these ships, because Godzilla alone weighs almost 100,000 tons. And we all saw the trailer how this exchange goes. Kong punches Godzilla. Godzilla stumbles for a bit, but then counters with the pimp slap. And he's getting ready to fire the atomic breath on Kong. But the military fired a missile behind Godzilla's back, which stunned him for a bit. Odd. It's kind of odd because Godzilla had never seemed bothered by those kinds of things before, but whatever. And that gives Kong enough time to punch Godzilla in the face and then push him back into the water, which was a big mistake because Godzilla uses the atomic breath to destroy the ship, and Kong evades by jumping out of the way, but Godzilla catches him in the water eventually and starts to try to drown him, which is expected. We all knew that Godzilla was going to have an advantage in a water area. That is his territory, and Kong is an ape. Apes do not do well in water. And Kong's about to drown until Monarch and Apex fire off some death charges to separate them, and Kong gets back on the ship, but he's tired out. Godzilla is coming back up and is ready to go again, but Alexander Skarsgård told everybody to stand down and make it seem like Kong, and they surrendered. Well, which Godzilla does accept and decides to move on to what his real objective. So meanwhile, while that's happening, Madison Russell, the girl from Godzilla King of the Monsters, is listening to the Black Guys podcast about the Apex and Godzilla conspiracy, and she thinks that something is provoking Godzilla because, well, Godzilla saved her life from King Ghidorah, and she's always had a fondness for the good Titans. Now, and she tries to tell her father, Mark Russell, but Mark Russell just thinks Godzilla's gone rogue because reasons. I mean, it seems like it's his uh, default setting that he be against Godzilla, especially since Godzilla was the reason why his son died in Godzilla 2014. I mean, yeah, he knows Godzilla's not a bad guy, and he saved him from King Ghidorah, but there's always going to be some part of him that doesn't trust Godzilla. It's going to be so. What basically got so basically Madison Russell tries to find with the help of the kid from Deadpool 2, the fat guy. He They go on the adventure to find the conspiracy guy, and then they all believe that Godzilla isn't just attacking at random. He's not being intentionally hostile. He's being provoked by something, and they're trying to find out. And they go into the Apex facility in Florida, and and the conspiracy guy was trying to show them what it was, but the device has been moved away, and it's all being relocated to the Apex base in Hong Kong, which they travel through in one of the containers, which also had skullcrawler eggs. And they're wondering what is Apex doing with skullcrawler eggs? And it turns out that you've been following me. We all know what's basically happening. Apex is creating Mechagodzilla through their own advanced technology and the remains of King Ghidorah, which is why Godzilla is attacking. It's because he senses Ghidorah's brainwaves, and he still thinks that Ghidorah is out there and is trying to destroy Ghidorah before he can become a threat. And what he's actually sensing is Ghidorah's brainwaves mixed with technology for Apex, and specifically Ren Serizawa, to pilot Mechagodzilla. And while Mechagodzilla is very powerful enough to even at 40% power, able to easily handle a skullcrawler, and he cuts it in half with the energy beam. I believe the marketing called it the proton screen. So we had the moon beam from the original Mechagodzilla when he shot that rainbow beam from his eyes. Then we had the Mega Breath from the Heisei version of Mechagodzilla. Then Kiru, aka Mechagodzilla 3 in the Millennium Era, had the Absolute Zero Cannon. Then later the Triple Mazer, and now Mechagodzilla has the Proton Screen. So yeah, Proton Screen is basically Mechagodzilla's version of the Atomic Breath, and it's so powerful it cuts a skullcrawler in half. Now, I heard a lot of Kong fans wanted the fight between Mechagodzilla and the Skullcrawlers to be dragged out a bit more, just so they could see them in action and maybe prove that they're not all that, just be cannon fodder. But sorry, this is the big leagues now. So yeah, Madison Russell and her team pretty much figure out that Apex is created Mechagodzilla because they want humans to be back on top. I mean, this whole the whole mantra is to have humanity be on top of the world and not the Titans. That's basically what the Apex leader's motivation is. They don't really go into Ren Serizawa's motivations, though. It would have been cool if they explained that maybe Ren Serizawa feels resentment towards Godzilla because his father, Dr. Serizawa, sacrificed himself just to revive Godzilla and fight King Ghidorah, or I mean, the other option is that maybe Dr. Serizawa was so focused on studying Godzilla that he started to neglect his family. Well, that kind of would be kind of a dickish move. And Dr. Serizawa's legacy, it would kind of be similar to Pacific Rim Uprising, where they kind of ruined the established character just to make the son of the established character sympathetic. So I think if we just went with the original idea that Ren Serizawa hates Godzilla because he's responsible, indirectly responsible for his father's death, and he builds Mecha Godzilla out of revenge. And that's his stake in it. But as is, we don't get anything, which is kind of disappointing. So back to the Hollow Earth. The people with Kong reached the Antarctica base by lifting him with helicopters on net. I have my doubts that would actually be a thing, but we're this far into the MonsterVerse. We got anti-gravity vehicles, a dragon with 3 heads. We pretty much thrown real the grounded rules out the window. So we're going to full just go nuts territory. So yeah, the helicopters take Kong to the Antarctic base, which has its lead to the Hollow Earth, and they have to convince Gia to tell Kong to go down there, and she does it by saying that his family might possibly be there. So he decides to go in, and they follow him in the Hollow Earth, and when they're going down through there, it feels somewhat like a thriller ride, and there's, oddly enough, a portal that leads to the Hollow Earth. I just thought it was going to just be like large tunnels that were just large, long tunnels that lead there. But no, there's actually portals, time, space, and everything. Okay then, movie. And what the Hollow Earth is like is, if you ever read or watched Journey to the Center of the Earth, that's basically it. It's basically like a jungle, island, whatever, inside the Earth. It has its own ecosystem of all creatures, like these crab things. One that looks more like a Komodo dragon. We saw the warbats, or Nezuki as they originally were. I'm gonna call them Nezuki because that's more unique. The Nezuki, those snakes that were able to fly, which Kong does fight, as we saw in the trailers, and he does pretty well with them. They don't. Only like the second one gave him a little bit of trouble by trying to coil up around him and try to suffocate him. But the humans fired their missiles from the heat vehicles, and that was able to distract the Nezuki enough for Kong to pound him to death and then rip his head off and drink its blood fluids. Kong, was that safe? Are the snakes not poisonous? Venomous? Yeah, venom. Is Kong immune to venom? Huh. But questions for later. Anyway. So, they continue to explore the Hollow Earth, and eventually they find this sort of like throne room for the old Kong species, because we could tell because of that handprint that we kept saw in the trailers. And Kong finds the axe that's lodged in this dead relative of Godzilla's species skull. I'm not too sure how big that Godzilla had to be compared to the axe. I think the axe would have to be like 100 feet tall, and which is like 1/3 of what Kong's size is. And So if that's the case, and scaling, maybe like this Godzilla would have to be. I mean, that Godzilla might be bigger than the Godzilla that we're following in the MonsterVerse. So is this like the MonsterVerse version? Is this like a reference to Godzilla Earth from the anime trilogy? I mean, if so, that's decent enough. Even though I didn't personally like the Godzilla anime trilogy from Polygon, still hoping for Godzilla Singular Point to be good. But yeah, he does find the axe. So but we're basically supposed to infer is that it's a it's a weapon that Kong's ancestors made, and it does look like it had one of the Godzilla dorsal plates, not from the actual Godzilla that we're following, from the ancestors. So I imagine they made this weapon to fight Godzilla species, but they don't really go into detail about how it was made. But yeah, Kong takes the axe, pretty much declares himself king of the Hollow Earth, and then Apex Leader's daughter figures out and finds the source of high energy in the Hollow Earth and tries to take it. The people at Monarch says you can't do that. It could be dangerous. You don't know what you're dealing with, and it leads to a small confrontation until Kong tries to defend the Monarch people, but that causes the Hellhawks, those bat bird things, to awake and start attacking people. But Kong manages to deal with them to some extent, and they're still running from the Hellhawks. But then Godzilla senses the energy coming from the axe and the Hollow Earth, and Godzilla uses his superpowered atomic breath to make a hole between or between Hong Kong and the Hollow Earth, and it almost hits Kong, but it does manage to also indirectly save Alexander Skarsgård and Gia and what's her face. They pick. So basically, Kong is pretty much using the tunnel that Godzilla made to reach Hong Kong for the rematch. And yeah, this was a really great fight. We got to see a lot that we didn't expect from both Godzilla and Kong. Godzilla, people saying that he's really big and slow. No. You see this movie, you will see that despite his size, he is pretty agile and fast for his size. He may not have a lot of stamina and doing the whole running thing often, but when he does, oh my God, does he do it? And Kong's no slouch either. Despite the axe getting stuck a few times, he's able to hold his own by using physical attacks from his arms to basically punch Godzilla or do the I don't know what that is, a haymaker or I never know what the or an axe hitter. I always forget what that move is called. But you saw all that in the trailer. But they keep going back and forth. Even there was one point where Godzilla was able to fire off the atomic breath and hit Kong in the back of his collar, of his collarbone, where it would be, and it did look like it did some damage to Kong because you could still see like the burn marks on his fur. And Kong is trying to just use the buildings and keeping out of Godzilla's range until he can get to the axe. And eventually Kong does use the axe to hit Godzilla, and it causes an explosion, and it knocks Godzilla out for a little bit. Well, Kong gets up, and Alexander Skarsgård's character says that looks like Kong wins round 2. Though I kind of disagree with that. It seemed like the fight was still going. It just Godzilla was got knocked out for a small bit. I mean, he comes up back up like a couple of minutes later. But but if you want to consider that round two or round two going to Kong, or the round fight was still going, you can take that as you will. But the fight still keeps going, and while that's happening, Madison Russell and her crew get caught by Apex, and basically the Apex leader gives his generic speech. I want humanity to be on top. Ever since I've seen Godzilla, I had this dream, and while this is happening, there's a malfunction in the psionic machine, and Ren Sarazawa has his brain fried, and Mechagodzilla is being controlled by Ghidorah's head. And it kills the Apex guy. Excuse me. And going back to Godzilla and Kong, Godzilla is searching for Kong, but Kong is high up on top of a skyscraper, very similar to the 1933 Kong. There are some references to past movies, even one where Kong shows the hilt of the axe in Godzilla's mouth, which reminds me of the damn tree scene. I really get annoyed by that part. But yeah, he grabs a piece of the building, throws it at another building to distract Godzilla, and then jumps on his back to pounce on him. But Godzilla shakes him off, and then he just goes all at him, crawling on all fours, biting his legs, scratching his chest, pounding his chest with his feet, slamming with the tail, and Kong even gets his shoulder dislocated. It is vicious. Godzilla is really vicious in this part. But like I said, we saw the scene in the trailers. I even did a video reaction covering this. Godzilla pins Kong down, and he roars at him. Kong roars back. Godzilla just stares at him and then walks away. Kong tries to follow, but he can't. He passes out. So yes, the winner of Godzilla vs. Kong is Godzilla. I'm not surprised because I read the leaks. I knew this was going to happen, and I've been telling people for months that Godzilla was going to win. For anyone who was wondering who was, and some people, specifically Kong fanboys, didn't believe me. But there you go. Kong passed out. Godzilla won. There was no extra part to that fight, despite what some people were trying to say when they saw the leaks. That was the end of their fight. Kong is unconscious, down, kaput, finished. Now that we put that away and settled it, Godzilla is continuing to look for Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla proceeds to burst out of the mountain to confront Godzilla. And oh my God, is Mechagodzilla vicious? I mean, Godzilla really got his ass handed to him in this fight. He does get some good hits, but Mechagodzilla just dominates him. Now, granted, this might be because Godzilla isn't at peak condition because he just had a fight with Kong all night, and it's already morning. But damn, Mechagodzilla is using these electric punches. He's shooting missiles. He's using his tail. He's so strong. He's able to flame Godzilla through a circle. He's able to do a seismic toss around Godzilla. He even slams Godzilla's head into 4 different buildings. You gotta feel bad for Godzilla, even if you're a Kong fanboy. You gotta admit, man, Godzilla really didn't deserve this. Um, and then it also did the classic beam clash between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. They always do that in these movies. And Mechagodzilla's proton scream manages to overpower Godzilla's atomic breath. Now, again, I think this is partly due to Godzilla not being at full strength, but I'm pretty sure that even if he was, at best, they probably might have just broke even. So that's how they usually do. They try to say that Mechagodzilla's whatever main weapon is as powerful as Godzilla's atomic breath. So Godzilla is losing his fight against Mechagodzilla, and the Alexander Skarsgård's team figures that they need to wake up Kong because his heartbeat is slowing, and if he doesn't wake up soon, he's going to die. So they cause one of the heaves to fall on his chest and explode and detonate, because that's supposed to have enough energy to, as they say, light up Vegas for a week. And that manages to revive Kong. And Gia explains the situation. Godzilla's not the enemy. It's Mechagodzilla that's the enemy. And Kong decides to help Godzilla out. And the team up, you Kong fans got screwed over with two fights. At the very least, you can enjoy this fight, because they do team up, and the fight sequence is good. They're all holding Mechagodzilla by the hands, each taking turns while Mechagodzilla is trying to struggle against him. Though Mechagodzilla does at a few points almost kill Godzilla and almost kill Kong at one point. It's a really good fight. It's really hard to put words into action, but yeah, it's really good. And Kong is able to figure out that they're not going to really do all that well against Mechagodzilla when they have the axe, so he has to use it. But Mechagodzilla manages to pin Kong down, and almost about to use his tail as a drill and pierce Kong. And while that's happening, we get to a scene that I really did not like. So while this is happening, Madison Russell's team is trying to disconnect Mechagodzilla from the Ghidorah's brain, and they're trying to figure out the password for it, and they can't, and in fact the computer decides to lock them out. But the way they solved it was by pouring the conspiracy guy's dead wife's alcohol on the machine, and that's what that's what debilitates Mechagodzilla and gives Kong and Godzilla the opening to defeat Mechagodzilla. The fight is good, but the way they handled the way the humans had the hand in defeating Mechagodzilla that way. Don't get me wrong. I like that the humans had some hand in defeating Mechagodzilla. That's the whole thing with the MonsterVerse, is that humanity shouldn't be fighting against these types. They need to work with them against the real threats, like King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, the Mutos, other potential titans that could show up, like Biollante, Destroya, Gigan, Space Godzilla. You get the thing. But the way this was done, it's more comedic than actual an actual good moment. I feel like kind of took the punch away from the fight. Not that much. It's still a good fight, but I felt like kind of undermined it. I think it would have been better is if they decided to go through under the panels of the computer and just tore wires apart and just destroyed everything intentionally. I think that would have been better. It would have made it seem more strategic and productive. But nonetheless, Mechagodzilla is stunned because it's lost its connection. Then Kong breaks free, starts slashing at Mechagodzilla. Godzilla powers up the axe with his atomic breath, and Kong proceeds to cleave right through Mechagodzilla and destroy Mechagodzilla before he could fire another proton scream. And Kong does the typical roar of victory and blah blah blah. So, and then he starts to rest for a bit. Everybody trying to celebrate that they're all still alive and the Mechagodzilla threat is over. And then Godzilla starts approaching Kong, and Kong starts to get up. But then Kong realizes, yeah, Godzilla's not the real enemy. There's no reason to fight, so he just drops his axe and just calls a truce between the two of them, which Godzilla seems to accept. Kong helps save his life, so he respects Kong. So it's basically that what's going to happen is that Godzilla is going to be the king of the monsters, king of the world, and Kong is going to rule the Hollow Earth, which is where he stays. Where he stays at the end of the movie. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All in all, this was pretty good stuff. The fight sequences are amazing. Kong really gets a lot of development. Really just showcases his intelligence, his relationship with Gia is really good. The comedy, while there are some ones that are cringe, like they were in King of the Monsters, even though I love King of the Monsters despite popular opinion, but then again, like I said in my Justice League Snyder Cut review, I'm not afraid to go against popular opinion. Yeah, but the jokes, while there were ones that weren't all that good, there were some ones that were pretty good. Especially most of them coming from like Alexander Skarsgård, because he's a really good actor. Madison Russell, I'm glad that we still got with her. I'm glad that she's still on Team Godzilla. If I were to take some negatives, I feel like the villains were a bit flat in their motivations. I mean, with the leader wanting humanity to be on top, that's fine. But we could have got, like I said, we could have had more development and motivation from Ren Serizawa for why he particularly wants to go against Godzilla. Because I'm pretty sure that he and the other guy are the ones responsible for making Mechagodzilla. The daughter, she basically acts like what's her name? Well, Michelle Rodriguez. She kind of acts like Michelle Rodriguez, like the typical bitch character. She's very she can be kind of condescending, very smug, and very hostile. But there wasn't really much for character. I'm also wondering, is Apex still going to be a thing? Because with all that advanced cybernetics, I think that would be a great idea. It's going to be tricky, but it could work. Is that maybe Apex, as a way of redeeming themselves for making Mechagodzilla and causing all that destruction in China and Florida, they could instead build Jet Jaguar, and he could be man's version of a protector that they made. Now I don't think that Jet Jaguar will have like size changing abilities, but maybe like he'll just have like super strength, be really durable, can fly, maybe shoot lasers like Ultraman, and what have you. I think that would be a great direction to go and be a great way to add Jet Jaguar and kind of add some development towards Apex. If not, if you want to keep them in the villain's role, keep them around and maybe have them build cyborgs like Gigan. I also heard that from King of the Monsters that they were trying to, that either Monarch or Apex, it's probably going to be Apex or something, or Alan Jonas people. They probably might be working on Organic Titans, so maybe we could see creatures like Biolante, Destroya, or Space Godzilla. Though if we were to get Destroya, that would probably just come from the Oxygen Destroyer from King of the Monsters. So it would probably just be either Biolante or Space Godzilla. So I think that would be a good direction to go. We currently don't know what direction they're going with because there was no post-credit scenes, and Adam Wingard pretty much says that he would be interested in working on other movies in the MonsterVerse. It's going to depend on how successful Godzilla vs. Kong is. You guys really, really need to support this. You need to give it the exact same energy that the Restore the Snyderverse people are doing. Though, if we could go on a small tangent here, I've heard that the that the Restore the Snyderverse people are trying to downvote Godzilla vs. Kong, trying to lower its score because they feel intimidated by Godzilla vs. Kong, and also they feel that Warner Bros. Isn't going to continue the Snyder version of the DC universe. So there's going to sort of retaliation. Guys, please just stop. You're being complete idiots. For one, Warner Brothers only has like a 25% investment in the MonsterVerse, which who you're really hurting is Legendary, and they didn't do anything wrong to you. Second, it's going to make you look like belligerent children who don't get your way. It makes you seem really petty, and if you're just attacking them like this, and it's going to make Warner Brothers less likely to continue Snyder's version of the DC universe instead of encouraging them. If you want to restore the Snyderverse, handle it with civility and fairness. Leave Godzilla vs. Kong alone. And besides, support both movies. Warner Bros. Still does have a stake in it, and Godzilla vs. Kong and Justice League are to some extent owned by Warner Brothers. So by supporting both, you're showing you're good fans, and they might be more likely to listen to you. Okay, but now that we got off that, some other thoughts on the movie. How they handled, I think I should talk about how they handled Godzilla. Godzilla, well, in King of the Monsters, felt more like a character. We got to see him express more, see how he handles different situations. Here, they don't really go all that much into Godzilla's character. I don't want to call him a plot device, but I'm really being hard-pressed to find another comparison. But I really think that we could have used some time to show more of Godzilla's character. I mean, I'm not saying he should have gotten the exact same amount of same amount of screen time that Kong got, because there's like so much you can do with Godzilla, well, outside of him fighting. But there's still things you can do. But with what it is, I mean, it's decent. We show that Godzilla doesn't always go for the kill. He knows when to not. He's willing. We've seen that he can show mercy, which he did to Kong twice, one in the aircraft carrier and one in Hong Kong. So it's not always going to be a fight to the death. If you just get knocked out or you submit, then Godzilla will call it a day and go away. I believe that's pretty much everything I could talk about Godzilla vs. Kong. So those were all my thoughts. I definitely think Godzilla vs. Kong was a great movie. I'd give it like a 8.5 or a 9 out of 10 for this movie. Oh shit! I also forgot to give my rating for Justice League Snyder Cut. Let's say about like an 8 out of 10, and Godzilla vs. Kong gets an 8.5 or a 9. And we'll round it up to a 9 out of 10. So those are all my thoughts about Godzilla vs. Kong. What do you think? Are you happy Godzilla won? Are you sad that Kong lost? or are you happy that he at least got the win against Mechagodzilla? Excuse me. What direction do you think the MonsterVerse should go after this? I like for I think like the next movie we could focus on Mothra and bring in Batra. That'd be make a great movie because I think Mothra could do a solo movie or two. You guys tell me what you think of this movie. What you think the future should be. I'll catch you mortals later.